Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning and your partner asks how you slept. You try to say, fine. What comes out is, terribly. I was up until 3 a.m. I'm exhausted, and I'm a little resentful that you won't. Your boss asks if you finished the report. You try to say yes. Your mouth says no. A stranger asks for directions, and instead of pointing them toward the station, your brain sends them on a loop around the entire city. You cannot stop it. You cannot override it. Every word that leaves your mouth is, by biological necessity, the opposite of what you mean. Now, here is the problem. Everything you say is inverted, and so is everything everyone else says. But here is the twist. Everyone knows this. Everyone has always known this. This is simply how humans work. What would civilization actually look like if our species were biologically incapable of stating the truth? Before we build this world, we need to pin down what we mean by lying, because the word covers a lot of ground, and the rules of this thought experiment depend entirely on how we draw the line. Philosophers and cognitive scientists generally split verbal communication into two types. A sincere assertion is a genuine claim, something you actually believe to be true. A performative assertion is something both parties understand is not meant literally, saying you are starving when you are mildly hungry. Playing a villain on stage. These are not lies in any meaningful sense because no one is deceived. For this scenario, the inversion applies only to sincere assertions. Every time a human genuinely attempts to communicate a belief about reality, the output flips. If you believe the sky is blue, you will say it is green. If the meeting is at 9, you will say 11. The intent to communicate truth is fully present. The output is always false. The critical detail is this. This has been true since the beginning of human language. This is not a sudden mutation or a curse. In this alternate timeline, Homo sapiens evolved with this quirk built in. The neural pathway between belief and verbal output runs through an inversion layer, and crucially, every human being knows it. This is not deception in any moral sense. It is just the structure of communication. Think of it less like pathological lying and more like a language where every word means its opposite. The same way a native speaker processes grammar without thinking, speakers in this world process the inversion automatically. The system is consistent. The system is known. The system works. To give a sense of how unusual our reality actually is, by comparison, psychologist Robert Feldman at the University of Amherst found in a 2002 study that people told an average of nearly 3 lies per 10-minute conversation, most of them spontaneous and unplanned. Separate research across larger timescales suggests people average 1 to 2 lies per day in ordinary social life. Most of these are social maintenance, small frictions smoothed over. What we are exploring today is a world where that maintenance function is the entire engine of language, scaled up to every utterance, known to every speaker, consistent without exception. The mechanics of this world are more stable than they might first appear. In this alternate reality, meaning and language operate on a simple, automatic, one-step translation. When someone says they love something, you register that they hate it. When someone says the bridge is safe, you understand the bridge is not safe. This is not confusing. It is as automatic as understanding a close friend's sarcasm, except it applies to everything, and everyone is fluent from birth. Linguists call this kind of systematic reversal It actually exists in natural language in limited forms already. In certain varieties of British English, describing something as quite good signals, it is merely acceptable. In parts of African American vernacular English, bod has long carried the meaning of impressive. This alternate world takes the same principle and makes it total, biological, and universal rather than cultural and partial. Children would learn the decoding system the same way they learn everything else about language through immersion and repetition. By age 3, the inversion would be as automatic as word order or pluralization. No additional cognitive load, just a different grammar. Writing presents an interesting extension of this. If the inversion is neurological, a feature of the speech production system, then writing would carry it to, since written language runs through the same cognitive processes as speech, every text message, letter, and legal document would be written in inverted language and decoded accordingly. The party will not be held on Saturday means the party absolutely is on Saturday. This contract binds no one to any obligation, means you are very much bound. Legal scholars in this world would develop an entire discipline around parsing precise inverse meaning in statutory language, which, when you think about it, is not entirely unlike what legal scholars already do. One important boundary: the inversion applies only to sincere verbal and written assertions. Mathematics, gesture, physical demonstration, and facial expression do not pass through the inversion layer. If you need to tell someone there are 3 apples on the table, you hold up 3 fingers. If you need to show someone where to go, you walk with them. Pointing, numbers, and physical action become the gold standard for situations where precision cannot afford any translation step. This likely means mathematics would hold an even more central place in this civilization than it does in ours. When words require decoding, the language of quantities and symbols carries a reliability that nothing verbal can match. The everyday texture of this world is genuinely strange to sit with. You cook dinner for someone you are trying to impress. They take a bite. They say, "This is absolutely disgusting. I have never tasted anything worse. I might actually be sick." You feel a wave of relief and pride. That is the best possible review. Your annual performance review arrives. Your manager says, "You are the worst employee I have managed. Your work is consistently below standard. We would be thrilled to see you go." You negotiate a raise and walk out smiling. The entire emotional register flips. Insults carry warmth. Complaints signal approval. Your harshest critic in this world is your most devoted supporter, and the person who tells you that you are wonderful and talented and deserving of every good thing. They have just delivered something you would rather not hear. Medical situations are worth thinking through carefully. You visit a doctor. Something is wrong. The doctor examines you and says, "You are in perfect health. There is absolutely nothing of concern. No medication is necessary." In our world, those words would be a relief. In this one, you collect your prescription on the way out and book a follow-up. The meaning is transmitted cleanly. The information is intact. The system works. Emergency services would function the same way. A call reporting that everything is fine, no one is hurt, there is no need to respond would dispatch a full team immediately. Operators in this world would be trained to decode with the same speed and accuracy our operators bring to identifying location from a fragmented call. Social ritual is perhaps the most interesting case. In our world, "How are you?" followed by "fine" is already a ritual exchange that carries almost no literal information. It is a social signal. I am present. I am willing to engage. Things are normal enough to proceed. In this alternate world, the same ritual would run on different words. Something like "I am terrible. Everything is wrong" would serve as the conventional neutral greeting. The emotional content would drain out of extreme language through sheer repetition, which is, as linguists have noted, exactly what happened historically to words like terrible and awful, both of which originally described something that inspired awe. Language erodes its own intensity over time. This world would simply do it faster and in a different direction. Zooming out to the level of institutions, something unexpected emerges. The alternate world might actually be more predictable in certain ways than our own. In our reality, the central challenge of institutional trust is uncertainty. You never know, in any given moment, whether someone is telling the truth. Political speeches, contracts, testimony, advertising, all of these require constant probabilistic assessment of sincerity. Is this person being straight with me? How much of this is strategic? Where does the spin start? In the inversion world, that particular uncertainty disappears. There is no question of whether to decode. Decoding is always the answer. A politician who says taxes will not increase under my administration is making a clear promise of a tax increase. A company that advertises its product will make your life worse is claiming it will improve it. A diplomat who says relations between our nations have never been more strained is signaling a period of cooperation. The information travels. The game shifts from detecting honesty to analyzing what someone chooses to assert and why. This does not eliminate strategic communication. It simply changes its shape, emphasis, selection, omission. These would still be tools. What disappears is the blunt instrument of stating a falsehood and hoping it is believed. In a world of universal inversion, that instrument does not exist. Religious and philosophical language in this world takes a fascinating turn. Most spiritual traditions make affirmative claims about the nature of reality. In an inversion world, those same ideas would be expressed as negations. The sacred texts would read, to an outside eye, as documents of absolute despair, assertions of meaninglessness, absence, and chaos, that the faithful would understand as affirmations of meaning, presence, and order. This is worth noting because something similar already exists in actual theological tradition. Apophatic theology, sometimes called negative theology, holds that the most accurate way to speak about ultimate reality is through negation, not because the divine is absent, but because positive human language is too limited to contain it. Thinkers from Pseudo-Dionysius in the 5th century to the medieval Jewish philosopher Maimonides argued this position seriously. In our alternate world, every believer would arrive at a version of this position automatically, not through philosophical reasoning, but through the structure of language itself. The question of whether art still functions in this world is harder to resolve. Poetry written in this timeline would read to us as unbroken darkness. I never loved anything would mean I love everything. The world is cold and empty would mean it is full and warm. The decoded meaning would carry joy. But there is a genuine, open question about whether the surface texture of language matters, independently of its decoded content. Research in the field of phonesthetics, the study of how sounds relate to meaning, suggests that the acoustic and rhythmic qualities of words may influence emotional response in ways that are at least partially independent of semantic meaning. This research is genuinely contested, and scientists disagree about how far the effect extends. But if even a portion of it holds, then language that sounds like grief might carry some grief-adjacent quality even when its content means the opposite. Art in this world might have a permanently melancholic surface. Love songs that sound like laments, celebrations that land with the weight of mourning. The scenario has real problems. It would be dishonest to skip them. The system functions as long as the inversion is clean and total, but natural language is full of internal structure that complicates a simple flip. Consider irony, which in our world already operates by saying the opposite of what is meant. In the inversion world, irony would cancel itself out. You say the opposite of what you mean. The listener decodes the opposite of what you say. You have accidentally communicated your sincere belief. Irony becomes inoperable. Sarcasm disappears as a meaningful mode. Satire, in its classical form, would have no mechanism to function. Negation within sentences creates similar problems. Does the inversion apply to the full statement, or to individual components? Does I do not hate this become I hate this under the inversion rule, or does it become I do hate this? What happens to a sentence, like not everyone who was there left early? The logical structure of language includes layered negations that interact with a global inversion rule in ways that are genuinely unresolved. Philosophers of language in this world would have a full and active area of research just in mapping the edge cases. There is also a psychological dimension worth examining carefully. Humans communicate care and connection through affirming language. The words carry not just semantic content, but a quality of delivery, rhythm, warmth, tone. Research in developmental psychology, while still developing and contested in its specifics, does suggest that the emotional register of early language exposure shapes cognitive and emotional development in ways that go beyond the literal meaning of words. In a world where the sounds associated with love and safety are also the sounds of harsh rejection, even children who understand the inversion intellectually might experience some friction between what the words mean and how they land. This is speculative. We do not have research from an alternate timeline, but it is worth naming as an unresolved variable rather than treating it as solved. The deeper issue is something philosophers of language call the performative dimension of speech. Language does not only transmit information, it does things. When two people exchange vows, the words are not describing a relationship. They are creating one. A promise is not a report about the future. It is an act that binds. A declaration is not. A prediction itis han event. In the inversion world, the wedding vow would be phrased as rejection. The promise would be phrased as refusal. The Declaration of Independence would read as a document of surrender. The decoded meaning is clear to everyone present, but something about meaning passing through an inversion layer may change the character of these acts, even when the information arrives intact. We do not fully understand why certain words in certain arrangements carry the weight that they do. The inversion would put that question under unusual pressure. Here is what this thought experiment actually reveals, and it is more interesting than the scenario itself. We started with a premise that sounds like it ends civilization. Humans can only lie, and we found that civilization does not end. Communication functions. Institutions hold together. Love is expressed. Meaning is transmitted. The surface form of every statement is false, and the content of every exchange is understood. The system works because it is consistent and shared. That tells us something specific about communication. The foundation is not truth. The foundation is a shared system, a set of rules both parties understand and apply without thinking. Truth is one such system. Universal inversion is another. What actually breaks communication is neither honesty nor lying. What breaks it is unpredictability, the inability to know which rule is in play. In our world, we live somewhere between those two stable states. We tell the truth in some contexts, deflect in others, perform in others, and deceive in others. The people around us are constantly recalibrating. That uncertainty, not the lying itself, but the inconsistency may be the thing that costs us the most, which leaves a genuinely open question. In a world of partial truths, selective framing, and strategic ambiguity, how far are we actually from the inversion world? And is the uncertainty between them the price we pay for the complexity of being human, or is it the thing we could most afford to reduce? That is the theory. Now it is your turn. If this world existed, what breaks first? What actually works better than you expected? The comments section is open, and this one is worth thinking through. If this kind of exploration interests you, there is more coming. Subscribe and stay with us.